If you're a fan of the 4:30 movie, you'll love Best Movies Never Made, hosted by myself, Josh Miller.
And Steven Scarlatta,
where we explore some of the greatest movies never made, like E.T. 2,
Johnny Quest,
Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian,
and Halloween 3D.
New episodes available every other Monday, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hello, this is not Gene Roddenberry, but if I was around, I would definitely be listening to Inglorious Trexperts, the new podcast from the people who brought you the 4:30 movie. Check it out, 430movie.com.
Hey, this is Mark A. Altman, and if you're a Star Trek fan and you haven't already picked up the hardcover edition of the 50-Year Mission, it's time for you to go out and get the paperback version of the 50-Year Mission, which is just out in paperback from St. Martin's Press. This is the complete oral history of Star Trek, the first 25 years, from me and Ed Gross. And if you think you know everything there is to know about Star Trek, think again. The 50-Year Mission, out in paperback now. And if you can't read, the audiobook is still available.
Electric Now? What does that mean? It means that you can watch us do these wonderful podcasts and so many other things, too.
Hey, Darren,
yes.
When I was a kid, I used to love the Electric Company. You know why? Because I knew one day Morgan Freeman would be a great actor. But if there's one thing I love about electricity that's even better than Schoolhouse Rock and the Electric Company, it's the Electric Now channel.
But also, they're turning it on and bringing the power.
Yes, they are. And we're turning you on. And no,
that's highly inappropriate.
Okay, well, we are turning on the power here at Electric Surge, where you may have, for the last year or so, been enjoying these amazing audio podcasts like Inglorious Trexperts, the 4:30 movie, Best Movies Never Made. Now you can watch
You ain't
them.
seen nothing yet,
No,
but
you
now
haven't
you
seen
can.
anything. You can on Electric Now, available on Stir TV and Distro TV, which you can download from your favorite app store, and soon coming to the Electric Now app. Get to see us as you've never seen us before, because you've only seen us in the theater of the imagination. Now we're going to be on your tablet, on your telephone, on your TV, and in your house.
The call is coming from inside the house.
So make sure to check out Electric Now, streaming now on Stir TV and Distro TV, and coming soon to the Electric Now app.
Back in the 70s and 80s, before the advent of VHS, chances are if you saw a classic movie, it was on the 4:30 movie. With their famous theme weeks, it was a chance to see movies you'd never seen before and get reacquainted with some old classics. So now, join us for the 4:30 movie.
Hey, this is Mark A. Altman, and this is More Movies We're Thankful For Week. Yes, it's that time of year again, Thanksgiving, when the turkey is cut, the mashed potatoes are served.
I'm going to cut you, turkey.
The wine is spilled, and people are celebrating Thanksgiving, the things that they are thankful for over the course of the last year. And here to celebrate and the gratitude, celebrate the love, if you will, is Mr. Stephen Melching.
Save me some of that pumpkin pie.
DAREN DOCHTERMAN.
Yes, and let's not talk politics with our family members.
I was going to say I'm thankful for impeachment, but okay. Moving on. Steve, we got Ashley E. Miller.
Steve Ashley E. Miller.
Steve Ashley Miller.
Steve Ashley.
Ashley Edward Miller.
That would be me.
Yes, indeed. And, of course, I'm Mark Allman. And we're here. Last year, I thought was a really nice show. Mm-hmm. The things we are thankful for. We talked about the movies that we're thankful for. Talked about things we're thankful for. We're thankful to have this wonderful show. It's great to be back on the 4:30 movie after our hiatus. Back here in the Electric Search Studios. We're very grateful to Dean Devlin for giving us a roof and a home and an electric. And, of course, our producer,
Marvelous
Natalie,
spread.
and Bill Ritter, who has just done such a wonderful job making the show sound great.
If only the content were as good as the production value.
Well, that's true. It does. So I want to ask, do you remember what your film was last year?
Yeah, well, yeah, the film I picked last year was the original 1977 Star Wars, not only because I just think it's a terrific movie, it was one that was very meaningful to me personally and professionally.
Sure. It was a great pick then. It's a great pick now. It's a perennial. It's a great movie. DAREN DOCHTERMAN.
I believe Zach could help me out with that.
Is that Galifianakis?
Well, maybe
the
he
archivist.
could. Our archivist.
Archivist.
And we're grateful to our archivist, Zach.
I think
back there in the dark.
I think mine was
Crying.
The Adventures of Robin Hood.
It was. I
Yeah,
do
that
believe it
sounds right.
was.
Because that is one I'm thankful for. And
You
it's
were in like Flynn.
Yeah, that's correct. And it's it's one that would often play during Thanksgiving on television.
Right.
So.
Right.
Oh, it
Was it The Wizard of Oz?
Oh.
See, there we
You
are.
would have been
The
thankful
Wizard
for
of Oz.
that,
Thank
too.
you, Archivist Zach.
I'm thankful for so many movies.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's hard to pick. But yes, I'm definitely thankful for Wizard of Oz as well. And that also played.
We're
on
off to
television.
see Ashley Miller. What was your pick last year?
My pick was The Wild Bunch because it prepared me for fatherhood.
Yeah, not Mr. Mom. Okay, yeah, The Wild Bunch. It's funny because I was thinking about The Wild Bunch for something, and I was like, oh, yeah, we did that for Western Week. I didn't realize it was for
Right,
movies
it's
we're
movies
thankful
thankful
for
for.
week.
Mr. Mom prepared me for Batman.
And then I think, Zach, if I'm correct, I think I picked North by Northwest, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
Okay. All great
There
choices. It could have been good for planes, trains, and automobile week, too.
you go.
That's a great train movie.
It sure is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a plane movie.
And a
car
plane movie.
They're in cars too.
And they're in cars. That's true.
And
that
giant-
is the trifecta.
And
Why
giant-
I should have picked it for
giant
planes,
stone
trains,
noses.
and automobiles. And on federal monuments, national parks.
It's Monument Week.
You can't decide between all the,
The most
noses. Pick
monumental
one.
week of all. So those are all great choices. We talked about Thanksgiving, everybody's Thanksgiving plans. What's your favorite food on Thanksgiving? What do you look forward to? You mentioned pumpkin pie.
I just like all the Thanksgiving food, and that's where like my wife and I kind of differ because she's not into that food. But
No sweet potatoes for her.
I love turkey and all the trimmings. I love the gravy. I love the mashed potatoes. I love the rolls, the pumpkin pie. I love it all. I'll have seconds.
Will you?
Sure.
I'm pretty much in the same boat. I love that.
Same gravy boat.
Thank you. And, I often, when I'm out to eat at like a diner, I will often get the open-faced turkey sandwich because it is exactly like having Thanksgiving dinner.
We should do great movies about Food Week with Diner.
Food Week is
Peter
a good
Greenaway,
idea.
The
actually.
Thief, the Cook, the
Thief,
Witch,
Wife
and
and
Her
Her
Lover.
Lover.
Yeah. What's other great Food
Eating
Week
Raoul.
movies?
Yeah.
Oh, Eating Raoul, yeah. Oh, my
Delicatessen.
God. Return of the Living Dead.
Diner.
Silence of the Lambs.
Oh, my God. Not exactly what I had in mind, but it could work. It could
Texas
work.
Chainsaw Massacre. Oh, wait.
my.
Alive.
Yeah.
Chef.
Alive.
John Favreau Chef.
Alive is also a plane
Cannibal
movie.
Holocaust.
Oh, jeez. Stop. This is going off the rails even quicker than I expected. Okay, so maybe we won't be doing Food Week anytime soon.
I lost my appetite.
Yeah. What about you, Ashley? Any Thanksgiving things you particularly are fond of? Traditions, food?
Getting drunk and storming out of the house. Wait, no. I love my turkey leg. I've got to have my turkey leg, man. Otherwise, it is not Thanksgiving. It's like, don't give me this ham thing. Step away with that. That's not Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving
Step away
is about
with the
turkey.
ham.
Step away with the ham.
That's
Turkey
Easter.
leg, a big old drumstick, right? That you can then use as a melee weapon,
Right.
to fight your friends.
Mealy?
Melee,
That's what I
melee.
Man.
Have you ever fought your friends
Edna
with a
St.
turkey
Vincent Mealy.
drumstick?
No, but I could have if I wanted to.
Are there any vegetarians on the panel that don't eat turkey?
Let's
that-
look. Nope.
Just asking. Okay, so
I love the leftovers.
you?
I love the.
That's a
I
good
love-
movie.
I just like the whole the whole season because
never
you got
liked
that
leftovers.
nice you got that nice long weekend.
Yeah.
Hopefully you have a nice long weekend to enjoy. You can like spend it with friends. You can go watch movies. All the good movies are coming out.
yeah, that's true.
Christmas isn't if you celebrate Christmas or you enjoy the trappings of Christmas,
Or you like Die Hard?
or you like
Die Hard. Yeah.
the Christmas is in the air. The decorations start going up. The music.
It's the unofficial beginning of Christmas,
Yeah.
which is nice, the Christmas season. You don't have to celebrate Christmas to enjoy Christmas, a
Right.
point I think I made last year. It's like the lights and the presents and the colors.
Colorful colors.
Colorful colors, and it's a great, and also a demarcation point for the end of another year,
Right.
Which will hopefully be a good year for everybody.
Yeah.
It's been a good year for you guys.
Yeah,
right?
It's been a great year.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's always nice, and then there's always the promise of next year being even better. So anyway, so let's talk movies we're thankful for. Steve Melching, Monday. What movie are you thankful for? If you say The Empire Strikes Back, we're gonna have a problem. Each year we'll know your answer.
No, I mean, this is a show where on our regular shows we're celebrating the movies that we love, and it's a positive show. And these episodes where we do the movies we're thankful for, I think these are the movies that are especially meaningful or important to us in some way. And last year I picked one that was very important to my childhood, and this year with Star Wars, and this year I'm gonna pick one that didn't come out until I was an adult. I was in my early 30s when this movie came out. But it's a movie I had been hoping for and anticipating, and almost had given up hope that it would ever be made.
Blade Runner 2049.
Yeah. No, I'm picking Peter Jackson's Fellowship of the Ring.
Oh, interesting pick.
I was a fan of the books, the Tolkien books that I read when I was in middle school, and I was a big Dungeons and Dragons player.
Oh, sorry.
What? I was
Thank
a
you,
big
Randall
D&D
Texcobb.
player. Back in 79, 80, in the early 80s, when D&D made its initial foray into pop culture, and during that period there were sword and sorcery movies that came out from time to time. Beastmaster. You had your Conan. You had your Dragon Slayer. And a lot of them weren't that good. Crawl. Yeah. But
Who can forget that timeless Wednesday pick of Ashley?
But Lord of the Rings was one that proved elusive. Of course, there were the Rankin Bass, or the animated versions, the Hobbit, Rankin Bass Hobbit, and then the
it was
Ralph
Bakshi.
Ralph Bakshi's Lord of the Rings,
not Rankin Bass.
Yeah. Not a particularly.
No, Rankin Bass did The Hobbit.
The
Hobbit.
Hobbit.
Yeah,
Also
we
did Return of the King.
Yeah, right. That's right. But they did not do Two Towers.
Where there's a whip.
There's a way. I wouldn't say anyone thought of those films as particularly successful adaptations of the Tolkien books. They were interesting, but they were always, it was kind of this, white whale of like, will anyone ever be able to make the Lord of the Rings movies? Yeah. And I think for a time, George Lucas wanted to do it and kind of famously pivoted and made Willow instead, sort of
That's
his
a big pivot.
version. Yeah.
Yeah.
But because of various rights issues involving the Tolkien estate and just the inability to mount such a production, proved elusive until New Line Cinema and Peter Jackson was ultimately able to put it together. And what I'm so thankful for is Jackson and his team seemed like the right people at the right time. Mm-hmm. Technology was at a place where the films could be realized successfully. And I think that was kind of brilliant to shoot them in New Zealand, which provided terrific locations for all the various places of Middle Earth that they had to travel to.
And to be fair, lots of cheap non-union labor.
Yes,
and
true.
And to be fair, they were all from New Zealand.
Well, yes.
I have to say, also one other person who deserves credit, well, the two, and, often, we disparage executives and stuff, but Bob Shea and Mark Ordesky were really instrumental to the success of the movie.
I mean, just from the fact that I think it was Bob Shea that said, aren't there three books?
Why are you doing this?
Why are you doing it two movies?
Yeah. Originally, it was going to be two films.
And then Mark Ordesky was there in New Zealand and was also very instrumental to the whole process of working with Peter Jackson and sort of keeping on track and making sure they had the resources they needed to make the movie right. They knew what they had.
And I was about to say, my very first job after I graduated from film school, I was Mark Ordesky's intern at New Line for a whole summer. summer of 1990, I got a job as his intern, and we shared an office, a tiny little office the size of a big closet.
Huh.
And he was the story editor at New Line Cinema at the time, and kind of a junior executive. And I believe he was already friendly with Jackson at that point. I believe he had a Meet the Feebles poster in that office. And I remember hearing stories that Jackson, when he visited L.A., slept on Ordesky's couch. I don't know if that's true, but Mark lived like 2 blocks from New Line at the time.
That is true, by the way.
It is true.
It is true. I heard that recently and on good authority from one of Mark Ordesky's assistants.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And Mark was an awesome dude, and it still is. I just saw him at Comic-Con this last summer, and he's a great guy, and I'm very pleased at his success, and I think thankful that he was instrumental, as you say, getting this film made and getting it made right. And what I love about this is Fellowship of the Ring turned out so well that it was, a handsomely produced, big budgeted film with a prestige cast that delivered a really satisfying film that connected with a mass audience, and that enabled Jackson to not only complete the trilogy the way he wanted to, but also then go back into it and do these extended editions that came out on home video later, and just really made this type of fantasy film mainstream in a way it never was, and I think without these films we certainly wouldn't have had the Game of Thrones series.
That's true,
any number of
and with the star of the prophecy, Viggo Mortensen.
Yeah,
That's correct. That's correct.
No, it's true.
I completely just love that you picked this. You were present for part of my journey to introduce my 10-year-old, introduce Caden, former panelist, to the Lord of the Rings films. And here's how I know they connected with him. Here's my proof positive, right? Because it's one thing to say, hey, man, you've seen all the movies now. What's your favorite? I think he actually loves Fellowship of the Ring best. But I heard him the other night. I was working. I heard him playing with his brothers in his room, right? So it's my 10-year-old and my 2 3-year-olds. And I hear Caden go, "You shall not pass onto my bed." I'm just like, oh, okay. So he's doing the Ian McKellen thing. So he really did dig those movies. So,
and these are movies that I like. Thanksgiving, they're kind of comfort food in a way. I revisit these movies every year. I'll put on over a period of a week or two. I'll just usually put on 1 disc a night. So half of part 1 of Fellowship one night, and then part 2, the second disc the second night, and then 2 Towers and 2 Towers part 2.
So it's like a giant miniseries.
Yeah. And it's I just love spending time in that world, and then the special features on these video set on the Blu-ray are tremendous.
Absolutely.
Some of the best
Superb.
value-added content, VAM, ever produced for the medium. We know our friend Charlie de Lauzirika has done some tremendous work on, whether it's Twin Peaks or Alien, but these Lord of the Rings sets are right
Michael
up there.
Pellerin and our friend Rob Burnett worked on them as well and did a great job.
4 audio commentary tracks per movie.
That's the funny thing. Whenever I start to watch these things, I tend not to watch the movie itself because I know it so well. I like listening to one commentary track after another and watching the same movie 4 times in a row with a different commentary.
And you really feel like you're going on a journey you feel like you get to know these
especially
people.
when you're hearing Richard Taylor talk about all of the various chain mail being made by hand by 3 New Zealanders. It's very inspiring.
making
Now
minimum
these are for
wage.
film 1.
We should actually do one day on 430 Movie, a week of great commentary tracks.
Oh, that's a great idea.
I think we should do, and we do commentary. It's commentary week.
Right.
Special
and
reports.
We do, and dysentery. But we,
movies just for their commentary.
Yeah, just for the commentaries. And we can just do a week full of
already
great
know which one I'm
commentaries.
picking.
But if you haven't listened to the commentary tracks on these
They're
sets, do yourself a favor. I mean, there's one track that's Peter Jackson and Fran Walsh and Philippa Boyens.
Right.
And there's a second one that's the main cast, right?
Right.
And then there's a third one that's some of the art, Richard Taylor.
That's Richard Taylor, and I think it might be just Richard Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
And then the fourth one are producers.
Right. and they're all fascinating.
Barry Osborne, I think.
And when you listen to all those commentary tracks and then watch the documentaries, which there's like 3 or 4 hours worth of documentary
At least.
on for each movie. By the end of it, you almost feel like you're part of the crew.
Right.
And it's just a really fun feeling. It's really fascinating. And so that's
great. It's a great pick.
And I just love someone who grew up playing D&D when that kind of stuff was stigmatized, to now live in an era where that stuff is celebrated and is sort of normalized. Back
Return of the King won best picture.
Yeah, I mean, all 3 of them were nominated for Best Picture and a slew of awards. And Return of the King, I think, won 11 Oscars, which I think tied for the most Oscars won by a single film, if I'm not mistaken, or damn close to it. But, to go from a time when this kind of material was either laughed at or frowned upon at best, or, linked with satanic worship at worst, to a time when it's totally normal is, it's really great.
Well, it also happened at exactly the right time, because it's almost the moment that a film like that became producible.
Yes.
They've figured out how to produce it and probably also advance the state of the art in terms of producing movies like that. But it's such an amazing combination of physical effects and computer effects.
And bigatures.
Yes.
And directed by a hobbit himself, Peter
Jackson,
Jackson, the barefoot director. God bless him.
Yeah. No, it's a great trilogy of films, and certainly it's perfect for Thanksgiving. As you say, it's something you watch over a long weekend. You can watch the whole thing, and it's the kind of thing, if we were younger, that they would show over Thanksgiving weekend on TV. So that's a really fun choice, and for a whole generation, it was their Star Wars. The way Star Wars is our Star Wars, Lord of the Rings is their Star Wars.
Sure.
I know people who are younger than us who just worship those movies. I actually respect them and like them. I'm not like obsessed by them like I am about Star Wars. So, but I think it's very interesting.
And I also love the way they were able to shoot them all together, more or less. So you could produce the entire trilogy with the same cast, and obviously they went back for lengthy periods of additional photography.
Substantial amount of pickups and reshoots, but that's great because they knew what they needed.
Yeah.
They knew what they needed to make them work. Tuesday, Darren, what are you thankful for?
I'm going to pick something that is very unknown. At least I think so. But when it first came out, I saw it and I was floored by it, by its gentleness, its kindness, its sweetness. I know everyone's trying to guess what it is.
Extra.
It's The Exorcist. No. This came out in 1986.
1986.
And it's the follow-up film by the director of The Last Starfighter.
I didn't know he did another film.
Me neither.
Jonathan Beadle?
No, that's the writer.
Oh, that's the writer.
This is Nick Castle.
Oh, the boy who flew.
The boy who could
through
fly.
The wall or something. Yeah.
The boy who could fly. There's no walls. No walls in it. It is such a sweet and sort of uncommon movie. And I just watched it a couple weeks ago because I saw it show up in, I think it was Amazon streaming. And I said, oh, well, let me watch this again. And it is so beautiful. And the cast is great. The young actress who's in it, who's since given up acting and became a lawyer, is I had it here for a second. It's Lucy Deakins, who is Roger Deakins' daughter.
Oh, really? Oh, that's interesting.
And she's absolutely wonderful in it, and you just fall in love with her. She befriends this other character named Eric, who is played by Jay Underwood, who also played the Human Torch in the Roger Corman Fantastic Four. And I don't think I've ever seen him in anything else again.
Well,
well,
after that,
wasn't his fault.
No,
but he's pretty darn good in this because he doesn't really speak during the movie because he plays sort of an autistic kid who may or may not fly. We find out at the end whether or not he does or not. But
does he fly through walls?
Well, you'll have to watch the movie.
Very good.
But a great guest starring turn by Fred Gwynne as the kid's uncle. And Bonnie Bedelia plays her mother. And little Fred Savage, I think, in his first role as the little brother. It was absolutely great, and he has a great sort of secondary story of a kid trying to make it in this new neighborhood that they're in. But it's really sweet. It has an amazing score by Bruce Broughton.
Who scored? He didn't score it last star. That was Craig Safin.
That was Craig Safin, yeah. But an amazing score, beautiful melodies. And actually, if anyone went to the El Capitan Theater, I don't know if they still have that sort of opening sparkly drape thing at the beginning of their shows. They didn't
the last time I was there.
But they used to have this big sort of rousing overture that is from that movie. That is from that movie.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And it's really great. But if you have a chance, look it up. It is a beautiful, sweet little movie that I don't really hear about anymore.
Well, I have an embarrassing admission to make. I've never seen the movie. I've read about it in Cinefantastic, but I never saw it.
Well, because you thought he flew through walls.
I did. I just didn't seem that captivating to me.
You were against it because of the wall.
I didn't want him to hurt himself when he went through the
walls.
wall. Yeah, exactly. No walls. But yeah, I didn't see it. I remember the articles, and I remember, Nick Castle Jr. follow up to Last Starfighter. I don't know why I never saw it, but I'm intrigued, and now I want to see it.
Well,
so
there you go.
This is the purpose of the show, isn't it?
I didn't see it either, but I did remember watching like the Siskel and Ebert review.
And it's funny because at that time, Jay Underwood and I looked almost identical. And I got stopped several times and was mistaken for this
the guy from that movie.
Yeah.
Can you fly?
Yeah.
Walls?
Luckily, no one forced me to show them.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Can you fly through
Bobby?
Can you fly, Bobby?
Wow.
Luckily, no one challenged me on it, so that's good.
Well, that's a great pick. That's a deep cut, and hopefully
I figured it was one that no one else would pick.
Yeah, and you would be right. Really great. No, it was another great pick from Darren. What about you, Ashley? We're ready for Ashley's pick. Wait, steal your set. Wait, you know what? I need my Arbonne.
Shields.
I gotta pour myself a drink here before Ashley tells us what he's gonna pick. So I steel myself. And, we're doing a new thing here on the show where we're actually using mugs so we don't
crinkle the
So
balls.
we don't crinkle and make a lot of noises. So it'll improve your listening experience while you're listening to the show. So if you'll forgive me while I have my water, so I don't want to interrupt the show.
His water. He's water.
Okay, so that was
Gotta
the
take
sound
my medicine.
because I'm going to put it in the cup, so I don't
needs his
want to
medicine.
interrupt and disturb
little
the
helper.
show. So just bear with me a second because Ashley is going to give us his pick in just a second.
Stay tuned for Ashley E. Miller's pick right after this.
Oh,
My
God,
goodness.
the humanity.
He's loading up for a spit take, I think, is what this is about.
Oh, I almost did. Hold on. I'm dying here.
Tell us a little more about the boy who can fly.
Well, he didn't have a drinking problem.
This is actually Arbonne, which is a pomegranate fizzy, and it's very healthy. It has green tea.
Are they paying for this
I'm
ad?
not paying for it.
Okay.
I'm just paying.
Maybe
We're all
they should.
Nobody's paying for it. It's a wonderful. It gets me through the day.
I'm glad.
It's filled with
wondrous
green tea
wondrous
extract
things.
And
So
very
Ashley,
healthy. Okay, so
I'm
now
thankful for
wait.
Arbonne.
I'm
It's
not
wonderfully
done. I
fizzy.
got to pour it in the mug now, so I don't make noise.
There's
Hold
a
on.
process. There's a process here.
next time just crinkle the bottle.
No. Yeah. Okay.
This is
look.
gripping
now,
podcasting.
Now.
Just nobody.
Now
just
it's
hanging on the edge of
now we can wait. Hold on.
There's
Now you may
suspense.
drink. One
Okay.
cup.
He's icing the kicker is what's happening.
I'm ready. I now have my drink in the mug, and I'm ready to continue the show.
Deflating the ball.
So, Ashley Miller, we're ready. Wednesday.
Wednesday.
He's forgotten.
No, I haven't forgotten. So we there was a little bit of foreshadowing when we were talking about the boy who could fly
Through walls.
through walls. Can you fly, Bobby?
Ah.
My pick for movies that we're thankful for, that I personally am thankful for, is, I believe it is 1987's RoboCop.
Oh.
Yes.
Keeping you safe in Detroit.
Yes, exactly. So
Part man, part machine,
all cop. So here's my journey with this movie, and it'll kind of lead to why I'm thankful for it. So I have two memories that stick out about it before actually seeing it. The first was seeing the standee in the movie theaters well before it came out. RoboCop.
When you finished laughing.
Yes, exactly. It looked ridiculous. Like, what the hell is RoboCop?
Yeah.
Right. So then I started.
Best title ever.
Yes, exactly. I started to see this. The other thing, I started to see these articles about it and started reading about it. And the thing that jumped out at me was how it was fighting an X rating. Right. This is before NC-17. It was fighting an X rating because of the level of violence. And I was reading about some of the scenes and how violent they were, and how Paul Verhoeven had cut 4 minutes from it, but it was still incredibly violent. It's just rated R, but it's really like this hard R. But the degree to which the violence was described and the kinds of things that were happening. I was quite a sensitive kid, and I had a hard time kind of processing screen violence. It worried me a lot. It bothered me a lot. And which is, I know you guys are thinking, holy shit, it's like you're Mr. Come in here and talk about horror and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and all this bullshit, which is true. But I had to get there. Mm-hmm. And going to see RoboCop, I was fascinated by it because it sounded like, once the reviews started coming out, like, it sounded so great, but I was afraid of it. Like, I didn't know if I was going to be able to handle the violence at all. So when I went to see it, I was anxious and I was afraid because I didn't know how I was going to react. And the infamous scene where Clarence Boddicker, the great Kurtwood Smith, and his gang just absolutely brutalize Peter Weller. Mm-hmm. It is seared into my brain. Very uncomfortable to watch. Just sort of sad and upsetting. You empathize with him. Verhoeven is such a great director because he can make this great satire that at the same time everybody feels so human and grounded and vulnerable.
Well, as he said, before the resurrection, you need you need the crucifixion.
Yeah, that's what we got, yeah. and it wasn't pleasant at all. It wasn't like an action movie beat. It wasn't any of that. No. It was just you sat there. It was
there. Ugly.
Yes, it was very ugly, and you sat there inside the suffering of it. And then there was obviously there were other moments in the movie that were incredibly violent. There's Ed 209 like blowing away the dude inside of the office. There's what's his name who gets covered in toxic waste and he's falling apart. Right. And he like gets hit by the SUX 9000 and he just flies into pieces. I mean, it's an incredibly violent film. But here's what I learned from it. Number one, that mastery of tone is kind of everything, mm-hmm. right? Because the brilliance of that movie is that Verhoeven made the violence. He didn't make the violence okay, but he put the violence into a context that somehow felt like it was both
It's hyper-real.
It was hyper-real.
Right.
Exactly. In a way that I could totally process it,
right.
but not dismiss it.
Right.
Right? Which is a tough trick.
It's the same difference between the news reports and actual news.
That's exactly right.
The news reports are more comic book.
Right.
And so it's the same distance between those and the violence.
That's exactly right. And he also managed to create this very internal character, by having Peter Weller, who is essentially covered in, he's prosthetic and suit and all of this, and you never really see his face, and he gives such an amazing performance. The other thing that I learned is, it's never judge a book by its cover, but movies can surprise us, right? Like nothing, I think, surprised me the way that RoboCop surprised me, simply based on that stupid standee that movie could exist and live inside of that space, and that it was all kind of done with this malice aforethought. Like, I mean, it wasn't an accident. It wasn't like Verhoeven, I think I'm just going to call it RoboCop, and nobody bothered to tell him that was a terrible title.
The key is, yes, it's goofy. We know.
Right. And then we're going to dare you to walk out of this feeling, that it is a piffle, that it's a trifle, which it isn't. It has like some of my very favorite lines of dialogue of all time, and it just, all the
great
actors
performances
are great
by everyone.
Performances. Like, Dick, you're fired! Right? I mean, come on. guns. I mean, I don't think there's a frame of that movie that I don't love. And then, of course, it was followed by kind
An
of
awful
RoboCop 2
sequel.
and then the remake and. Yeah.
Well, RoboCop 3 by Fred Dekker.
Yeah, and God bless Fred Dekker, man.
Taking that on. That was after RoboCop 2. Frank Miller wrote that.
Yep.
It's dark.
Yeah,
dark.
they had no money.
Yeah. But I'll tell you, it's interesting. I mean, I think I've told this story before, but at the time that RoboCop was coming out, I was doing, as a teenager, I was doing a science fiction magazine, and we were trying to get Superman 4 for the cover. And they offered us Mark Pillow, Nuclear Man. Right. And we're like, no, we want Rosenthal and Connor, who wrote the script, and Sidney Furie, who directed, and Christopher Reeve, all these people. And Warner Brothers was not being very cooperative. Meanwhile, Orion was chasing us to put RoboCop on the cover.
Right.
And we're like, what? No. Stupid Robo. What is it? They should just come see the movie and then make a decision. And it's like, and we're like, oh, go see this dopey movie, Robo. It's a cop robot who's a police officer.
Robot cop.
It sounds like some dumb, Holmes and Yo-Yo or John Schuck thing. And so we went to go.
It sounds like a full moon movie.
It sounds like a full movie. So we go to see the movie at the Orion screening room, and it was like, oh my God, this is the cover. And it was like, and we had it before it came out because we knew when it came out, everyone was going to have the same reaction, like, oh my God. And I mean, the social satire. And of course, I was a fan of Paul Verhoeven from movies like The Fourth Man and Spetters. And but it was like, and it just blew us away. I mean, so good and so smart. And, all the newscasts and, particularly in the 80s, the Reagan Revolution, it was all about corporations and money and Wall Street and, and so it really was such a smart satirical takedown of, a decade of excess. And it's just brilliantly done. And, obviously high crime. And it's funny. I mean, Detroit, what was it? Shot in Texas, actually. They shot it in Dallas, I think. But it's just such a great movie with such great performances. And, it's one of those things where can you get past the title or not? A lot of people probably can't get past the title and realize, there's this wonderful candy filling.
Right.
And it's great. I mean, it's a great movie.
Yeah, I had kind of the same experience too, because watching this movie unfold in real time back in 1987 was a very different experience because we had no idea what to expect of it. And
no trailers.
No, I saw it. I think I went to a free screening of it in Colorado Springs, like one of those audience awareness screenings that somehow I got tickets to. And I had the same reaction that I think everyone had. RoboCop? Give me a break. That sounds ridiculous. And I was home for summer break after my first year at USC Film School, so I was a young film school punk. I had been watching all the important films of film history, so I was a little bit of a snob at that time. And I went into the movie, and I liked it, but I think I hated myself for liking it, so I didn't want to admit it for a while. I think I walked out of that movie going, that was stupid. That was so over the top. Give me a break. And that satire is so obvious. Give me, please. And I just kind of resisted it for a few years. And then a few years later, I relaxed and saw it again and thought, oh my God, this movie's awesome.
And Miguel Ferrer, has there ever been a more
so
smarmy
great. No, he's great.
corporate climber?
Ronnie Cox.
Oh, Ronnie Cox is so great.
Back on the Peter Weller thing, there's a scene at the heart of that movie that I think is what sets it apart and actually is what makes it great.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
It's when his memories are starting to come back, when he is understanding who and what he was, and he goes to his home and he finds that it's empty. He's walking through his house and he's just seeing everything, and it's
gut-wrenching.
It is. It crushes you. It crushes you. It is such a perfect moment. I had a few years ago a conversation with an executive who shall remain nameless. Yeah. Oh, I don't even know if it's still associated with the studio, and it might have been a producer, but we were talking about potentially doing the remake, and the conversation went something like this. The first movie doesn't really hold up. I mean, you don't want to do any of that stuff with him, kind of walking around in his house and all that. And I was like, well, thank you for the conversation. Yeah.
You've just completely missed the entire point of the film.
I'm out. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
I'm out. But no, I am also, one of the other things I'm thankful for about this movie is that by having the experience of kind of facing my fear of the content, I actually, in the process of watching the film, learned how to process that content and deal with it. So I don't I can, and Steve can certainly attest to this. I don't really demonstrate any fear of kind of on-screen violence anymore. Or
in fact, now you crave it.
Now I crave it. No, I'm a total I just love all that stuff. I'm a sadist. No, I mean it opened up the toolbox a little bit and sort of showed me, oh, this is how it's done, and I can be okay with it.
Yeah, and the remake is misguided in every way possible. Don't understand the lessons of that movie at all. I mean, Verhoeven was such a force in the 80s and the early 90s.
Well,
I mean,
another thing for a movie that's so sort of, you could argue, is so sort of cynical, it also wears its heart on its sleeve. It's totally earnest about what it is.
Right.
You know, it doesn't. It's not trying to be. It's not trying to be clever. It's like, it's just all there.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
the,
I love
hyper reality of the satire or the violence or the.
I love that, Verhoeven had the same response to us when he got the script. He said RoboCop, and he's like, why are they sending this to me? And he reads the Neumeier script and, and he realizes this is something special. He immediately got it, but it's like he had the same reaction we all did. It's amazing they never changed the title.
I think they tried a couple times and they just realized,
Nope,
what?
This is the title.
It is
We'll
what it
own
is.
it.
I think it also spawned one of my favorite bootleg toys. You see that picture of Robert Cop.
Oh my God!
It's like this cheesy Chinese knockoff Robert Cop.
How about the Basil Pandora score?
Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
It's
great.
It's so great. And then it was totally ruined in the sequel by Leonard Rosenman. Who
Oh
gave
my
him
God, that's like his job,
RoboCop.
Hey, Robo!
But yeah, that Basil Pandora score is really, really great. He was definitely like the guy from muscular 80s. I mean, you look at Red Dawn, Conan, I mean, Starship Troopers later on. I mean, he just could nail that kind of, testosterone-y kind of action, but with an edge. It was so great. He was so great. He died young. It's a shame because he was so talented. It's
true.
And I remember is it Rocco Joffrey, the matte
painter?
Star City? What was it? No, it was what was it? The city? Agro City? No.
Delta City.
Delta City.
Yeah, he came to USC to visit our USC Special Effects Club and brought some of those matte paintings with him. And I know one of the paintings hung in the administrator's office for years afterwards. One of the OCP establishing shot matte paintings.
One of them is owned by a friend of ours.
Oh, there you go. But beautiful work.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and it was production designed by a dear friend of mine, Bill Sandell, who I worked for years later. But his stories about how they basically threw that together on a wing and a prayer are fascinating.
It's not an expensive movie at all.
Kind of low budget.
No, it's really done on the cheaper side, but it's extremely for all that. It has a definite look, and just the mere idea of painting the cars flat,
Right.
and we
just a
have
Ford
them.
Taurus.
We have them today.
Yeah.
I mean, it's this little thing that really gives you a future look. Amazing.
It's just a Ford Taurus off the assembly line that
Yep.
they painted flat black.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, no, it's a great movie and a great pick for you.
Good Wednesday.
Good Wednesday. Not to be confused with Good Friday.
Nothing says Thanksgiving like RoboCop.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's true. So that brings us to Thursday, which might mean it's the time for me to have another sip of my Arbonne pomegranate fizzy. Because I'm stalling now because, of course, I have no idea what I'm thankful for. Because last year I picked North by Northwest, which was such a seminal film for me.
Are you still thankful for it?
I'm very thankful for it. Maybe I'm thankful for it again. And I'm looking, there are a couple of films that I've picked in the past, and I'm loath that have shown up on the show. On this 40th anniversary, Star Trek: The Motion Picture, but we picked that for In the Shadow of Star Trek Week. A movie that basically saved the Star Trek franchise. Star Trek.
Well, it created it.
It created the Star Trek franchise. 10 years after Star Trek had been off the air, Star Trek came back to movie theaters in December 7th, 1979. And regardless of what people think about it, it was a hugely successful financially, and most of us would say artistically as well. And it proved Star Trek was more than just a little TV show. So, I mean, I'm definitely thankful for Star Trek The Motion Picture, I'll tell you that. I mean, and then I think for Can't Stop the Music Week, did I pick Singing in the Rain, Zach? Did I ever pick Singing in the Rain?
No.
Really?
Oh.
Well, I know I picked Casablanca, so I can't do that. I definitely thought about Manhattan because, of course, being from New York, I feel it's this amazing love letter to New York. And just beautiful black and white film shot by Gordy Willis. But I think
what would be the Dear John letter to New York?
Cruising. But I think that I think I'm gonna have to go. Oh man, when we did Gangster Week, we didn't do The Godfather, did we?
No,
because we said we'd save it for Francis Ford Coppola Week, which we never did. I have to go with The Godfather.
All right.
The Godfather. Well, man. There's also the 1946 The Big Sleep, which I love. Written by Leigh Brackett, who wrote Empire Strikes Back, one of the great pairings.
You're more thankful for The Godfather
than The Big Sleep? I don't know about that. The Big Sleep is some of the greatest dialogue ever written for the screen. But I'm going to go with The Godfather. I'm going to go with The Godfather. I'll tell you why.
Little meat and potatoes.
because you believe in America.
That's right. Because I believe in America. I knew it was you, Darren.
That's from 2.
Yeah, that's right. God, you got me on that one. Son of a... So anyway, the point being, The Godfather is great because Godfather combines what we love about art films with what we love of popcorn films. It's both. It combines peanut butter and chocolate into one delicious mix because The Godfather is shot like an art film.
Yeah.
It's a period piece, but yet it's a pot boiler. And it's a family saga, but it has, all the things you expect in a popcorn movie. I mean, and just these brilliant performances, whether it's Marlon Brando or certainly Al Pacino, James Caan, everyone is just so good in that movie. But it's this expansive tapestry. The funny thing about The Godfather is, had never seen it in a movie theater, had no interest in it for a long time. I think as a kid, I may have watched the novel for television.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, right.
When they aired Godfather 1 and 2 cut into chronological order, and it aired on NBC like in the mid...
Right?
Yeah, and I remember thinking, oh, this is cool. I never saw it again until it came out on video cassette in college, and it was like a two because it didn't fit on one tape, and watched it, and I was like, oh my God, this movie is amazing. And then, of course, I was fortunate enough to see it in a theater, and it was just like, so I was late to the Godfather party, and then became utterly fascinated with it. And I think part of that also was in, Kid Stays in the Picture came out, and Robert Evans, the whole myth of the Godfather, and then, all the legendary fights between Robert Evans and Francis Ford Coppola, and Francis just holding his great, it's such an amazing story how the Godfather was made, and all the bad choices that Coppola avoided, them not, well, does it have to be Italian?
Right.
We got to have a star play Michael.
Can we set it in modern times?
Yeah, can we say does it have to be contemporary? Right. And it's just them having to get the permission of the mob to depict the mob.
It's amazing. I mean, the behind the scenes is at least as interesting as what happens in the film.
And I have to say that it's a movie that we've talked about this, the TV test. If it's on TV, can you change the channel? Like if you're channel surfing, can you then move past it? No, I've never been channel surfing and came across The Godfather and able to change the channel.
To this date, I've never been able to switch off it.
And I just feel like it is one of the great movies of all time. I have very much the relationship with Godfather 2 that I have between Star Wars and Empire, where I worship Empire Strikes Back, but Star Wars is still my movie, and it's the same thing. I think Godfather 2 is a masterpiece, but Godfather is still the one. And I just I'm very thankful that a movie like this exists because it's just a remarkable film, and of course also Gordy Willis, who later in 1979 shot Manhattan, shot Annie Hall in 77. I mean, Stardust Memories in 1980. I mean, just amazing cinematographer. And the look that he brings to Godfather 1 and 2 is astounding.
And to hear Coppola tell it, they were at each other's throats during the first movie.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And Coppola even thought he was lighting it too dark. I mean,
Yeah.
they called him the Prince of Darkness because everything he lit, everything's so dark.
The you know, I'm not going to say the Blu-rays because they're not new; they're a few years old, but they look gorgeous. I can't wait for the 4K HDR.
Neither can
of
I.
them.
And apparently, this was done a while ago, and I don't know what. Are they waiting for an anniversary or what? Because apparently, there's a gorgeous 4K transfer of The Godfather. We're just waiting for it to come out, and it's been, a while that Paramount has this, and I'm just hoping it will be out soon because I can't wait for that. Because when I did see the restored print in theaters, I mean, it just looked amazing.
Gorgeous. It's a gorgeous film, and the fact that it conveys the feeling of the 40s by just how things look. I mean, even the color temperature of the film itself looks like you're looking at old photographs, and it's absolutely beautiful. It's technically a wonderful film and artistically a wonderful film, and this is even beyond the amazing performances in it. It's glorious, and I'm a little different than you. I like 2 a little better, a little more, but very little.
Yeah, I mean, they're both amazing films. And apparently, you've heard that Francis Ford Coppola recut recently Cotton Club, that there are rumors that he's going to recut Godfather 3, which is really exciting because that was a movie much like Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
They're going to put a digital Robert Duvall in it
to replace George Harrison.
Yeah,
much like not George Harrison.
Yeah,
but you know who I'm talking about.
You're going to cut a lot of V'ger shots out of it.
But much like Star Trek: The Motion Picture 10 years before, which was rushed into theaters to make a release date, it was the same thing that happened with Godfather 3. They had to make a release date, and he really didn't have the time to finesse it the way he should have and could have. And it'll be, really exciting to see what he's able to do with that movie.
I'd love to see that.
Even with Sofia Coppola.
Such an audacious movie. I mean, can you imagine a movie like that opening today with like a 20-minute wedding sequence?
No.
It would, if it was made today, it would start off with some kind of
with a hit,
hits
totally.
Some action.
Don Corleone, I'm honored to be here at the marriage of your first daughter.
I mean, I think I had a similar journey to you, Mark, seeing this movie. I'm sure I saw the novel for television first, and then the VHS, and then when I was in film school, I would get the master screening schedule for all the classes that they would show, and I would highlight the ones that I would want to try to see. And one class was showing The Godfather and The Godfather 2 in the big Norris Theater, and I remember sitting in the back and watching both of those on consecutive weeks on the big screen for the first time.
That's great.
I'm torn though. I'm kind of in your boat. I think Godfather 2 is so great. I love the structure of it. I love that intercutting.
Yeah, me too.
The past and the and the present, quote unquote.
It's audacious.
Yeah, I love it. But the first one is the first one.
Yeah.
Plus, honestly, I'm not the gigantic Godfather fan like you guys are. I mean, I love The Godfather. Make no mistake. I don't know that I would put myself in your class or how much you love it. But I will say what I love most about The Godfather is I love Michael's arc. To me, that is the thing that's most interesting, and it's the most interesting thing in both movies.
It was an abortion, Michael. An abortion.
Again, 2.
Yeah.
You seem to quote a movie that you like secondly.
I know. It was in his... he was just saying the arc of Michael through the 3 films.
Yeah, I heard him.
Yeah. But
trying to get out, but they pull me back in.
Wait, that's the thing. So just the going from being the good son who doesn't want to be a part of this, to somebody who is just so steeped in it, lying to his wife at the end of the film. Spoiler alert. Yeah. And you just go, oh my God, it's
that's one, by the way.
You damn right it is.
The character's fall is awesome, and it is such a great portrait of it's not even a portrait of somebody sort of becoming bad or becoming a villain. It is somebody
Corrupted.
coming into his own while being corrupted, which I think is fascinating. And I love everything about that.
But when his best state is a corrupted state, that's the tragedy.
That's right. That's exactly right.
When he functions the best, he is at his worst.
That's right. Plus, it has that great third act where a lot of shit happens.
Sure.
Well, I mean, the whole montage, the third act where they intercut, all the assassinations.
Somebody put a bullet through his eye, and there isn't even a plaque.
That man.
That man's name was Mo Green.
He built this city. And of course, I mean, I don't know if there's a better scene in movies than the scene in the Italian restaurant with Sterling Hayden.
Oh, my God.
Where
It's so
Michael sits down, to broker the peace, and he ends up shooting Sterling Hayden in the eye. We need to
In the
talk
throat.
in the throat, right? We need to talk Italian now.
Yeah.
No, it's a perfect moment.
Well, what's so great about that is that the first version of that scene was the first scene they shot and showed the studio. And the studio said, this isn't working. We got to fire this guy and we got to get someone else. And I think it was over a weekend, Coppola fired his first AD and someone else, and to just screw up the studio's plot because they couldn't get rid of everybody.
Yeah.
And so that allowed him to come back and redo that scene, and after that, everying was fine.
Well, it's a very Godfather move.
It's totally a Godfather move. That's what I'm saying.
They were trying to. He was way behind, and they were trying to fire him and make a change. I mean, the only reason he got hired was because he was Italian,
right?
And they were afraid of hiring
blowback.
By not hiring an Italian to do this story. And but the old story was like all the mob movies were like Kirk Douglas or a Jewish guy and stuff, and they wanted an authentic, as Coppola said, we wanted you to be able to smell the spaghetti,
right?
And it's really remarkable. And there's a great book called The Godfather Notes or something, or Coppola's notebook.
The Godfather notebook. Yeah,
Godfather notebook, where it's his notes and marking up the book on how
it's great,
and it's a textbook in how to adapt IP, to the screen. I mean, it's just brilliant, and all his notes and the way he approached it, and the thoroughness and the meticulousness in adapting that material,
and very thorough.
Thorough.
It's a good thing.
I think as a footnote, I believe George Lucas worked on The Godfather.
He did second unit directing
in the hospital sequence.
I think a little bit on the hospital, but also the cutaways to the newspapers. Lucas did those, I think,
which is also a remarkable.
It was Lucas who. It was Lucas who helped figure out how to deal with the tension in the hospital scene when they're waiting for the assassins to show up, because Coppola hadn't shot enough stuff. So it was Lucas that went in and got all the trims of the ends of shots showing no one in the hospital,
Oh, wow.
and adding those to that sequence to build up the tension.
That's brilliant.
And look at that scene; it's magnificent.
It's great.
I mean, it's just the suspense.
Yep.
It's a real pressure cook. They're coming to assassinate him, and it's just brilliantly
I am
done.
Enzo, the baker.
Yeah. And when Michael puts up his collar and tells him to put his hands in his pockets. I mean, and is there a more quotable movie in cinema history? I mean, how many?
Godfather 2.
And I don't put me in a position where I'm knocking Godfather 2 because I love Godfather 2.
I know you shouldn't knock Godfather 2.
I'm not. Believe me, I'm not. So that's Thursdays, The Godfather.
Thursday.
So Friday
is Godfather 2.
What else are we thankful for?
Friday, we're gonna do what we did last year, which is sort of open it to our audience to share their own thoughts about movies they're thankful for.
What does Twitter think the most
Twitter
thankful movie is? I don't know.
I don't know. We'll find out, won't we?
I hope so.
The Social Network. That's what Facebook is most happy for.
Funny.
I don't know if Twitter. David Fincher hasn't done a sequel about the birth of Twitter yet.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, well, you can only shoot it like 140 frames at a time.
Oh, I see what you did there. Yeah. Nice.
Oh my gosh. That is crazy. But I mean, I think this is something we could be doing for a long time because I think there's so many movies that
Absolutely.
we're all grateful for.
Obviously,
week.
For who we are grateful for so many movies.
Yes, we are.
Because we enjoy them so much, and they are such a part of our life.
Well,
so it's really hard to pick one.
So much joy over the years.
And
I
they've
think
given us our vocation.
that's true. That's true.
This is also true.
You know, I mean, we all came out here for the same reason,
Right.
to make movies and television. It's what brought us all together as fans of the mediums and this content. And, you know, after all these years, we're still friends. Go figure.
In spite of everything.
There was the that article, I don't know if you read it, in the Hollywood Reporter. It talks about how in a cyclical business like this, people don't have good friends.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I found that to be the biggest pile of bullshit.
I think it's just people that work for the Hollywood Reporter
Yeah.
don't have any friends.
I prefer to hang out with the kids from Variety, to be honest. So I thought it was ridiculous because I think, some of my best friends,
Some of my
in
best
life
friends are movie people.
are people I met, out here in L.A. in the business.
It's sort of a lazy stereotype trying to
Well, of
imply
course.
that, Hollywood people are shallow and that the transitory nature of working on movies and television, you come together and then go apart. But I find that coming together, you get to meet a lot of people,
Different
over the
people,
years.
right.
And the ones, and some of them you really connect with. You're not stuck being
Right.
friends with the same people at the law firm for 40 years.
That's right.
Exactly, which isn't a real friendship anyway. It's like you're stuck in the same boat.
Right.
And who wants to be friends with actors for 40 years? So, I mean, no,
You gotta,
kidding. I
choose
joke.
your
I
law
joke.
firm.
But the thing is you meet so many people, so you're learning so many people's different stories and different personalities, and I mean, it's a gift. It's a gift that we
And the
have
great
been
thing
given.
is because it is the circus life, and you're going back and forth between jobs so often, you get to choose who you be
That's
friends
right, yes.
with,
And who you stay friends
and
with.
who you stay friends with,
That's right.
as opposed to being
Absolutely.
in the same office day to day.
That is true, and it's funny because at the beginning of my introduction in the 50-year mission, which is coming on paperback next month, by the way, my oral history of Star Trek on sale now. I just want to say that I had a quote from Nick Meyer, which is true. He says, "In what other business do you get to shake hands with your dreams?" And it's like, I think that's the quote, something like that. But the idea,
Or maybe it was shake hands with your germs. You don't know.
Or your grams.
the idea is, I mean, you've met George Lucas. You've written for George Lucas. You've worked with James Cameron. I've worked with Bill Shatner and Sharon Stone and you've worked with Kenneth Branagh and all these amazing people. It's like,
But I have to tell you something. So in the land of you just don't make friends, they don't last a long time. It's 2019, and I think it was nearly exactly 20 years ago, that I was paid for the first time as a professional writer. And I will tell you who wrote the check. It was this guy. It was Mark Altman, who made me a professional writer. I mean, we've known each other for 20 years.
If I
You
give
guys
him
have
the
known each
yarn,
other for
can he
longer.
make me one too?
Right. Yeah. Why, yes. Yeah, here's $1, kid.
and acting of incredible narcissism. I made a movie about my freaking Hollywood friendships, with Free Enterprise. And
Ironically, you made it also about your imaginary friendships that became a real friendship.
oh yeah, with Bill, yeah, that's true. Who you're going to see in Thanksgiving
Ticonderoga.
weekend in Ticonderoga, which is
It's
making
all-
turkeys together.
It's all linked. It's all one
But who's
big
making the
circle
sweet
of life.
potatoes?
You don't want to know.
Who's making the pumpkin pie? Pumpkin pie. I don't know. Anyway, look. This is always a fun show to do the things we're thankful for. But there's so much to be thankful, for. We got our health. And we have this wonderful, beautiful studio.
We've got each other.
And we got this Fakakta show that we do. And
We've now got ceramic cups to pour our drinks into.
That's most of all. And we have an audience that actually has some fleeting interest in what we have to say. So as opposed to the waiters and waitresses at some gin joints around the world. So anyway, I want to thank you guys. I want to thank you for being a part of 430 Movie, for being friends.
Should we go down the line and
we should
say
do that. We'll start with Steve Melching on Monday.
Oh, the movie I'm thankful for is Peter Jackson's Fellowship of the Ring.
And what are you thankful for, Steve, on this Thanksgiving? besides Fellowship of the Ring?
I'm just thankful to still be able to make a living doing what I always dreamed about doing since I was a little kid.
That's great. Darren, Tuesday.
Tuesday is Nick Castle's The Boy Who Could Fly. And
Boy Cried Wolf.
I also am grateful, the same thing, for being able to still make a living in this crazy business that we call show. But I've been at it for 31 years, and I'm constantly grateful that I can still do it and still get work and still have fun.
My pick for Wednesday is RoboCop. And I am thankful that I have 3 beautiful boys who are learning to love things of their very own for their very own reasons. I think that's just amazing.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. Well, I want to ask Bill and Natalie what they're.
Wait.
Wait, what's
You're
their
not
Thursday?
getting out of this.
Oh, Thursday.
You got to name yours and what you're thankful for.
The bah humbug. Well, I'm thankful for thankful for Francis Ford Coppola's The Godfather,
Right.
And I have to echo the sentiments you expressed for this wonderful profession of ours that we get to ply our trade that I think we all dreamed about as kids and get to do it every day or almost a lot. It feels like every day these days. And of course a wonderful family and that, as you say, forges their own way in terms of their sharing some of the same obsessions and then other obsessions that we don't share, which is great because it's introduced me to things like Harry Potter I don't really like. And no, there's nothing wrong with Harry Potter. It's just not my thing.
Captain Underpants would not be in my life if it weren't for my job.
But no, we're knock on wood, we're all very, very lucky to get to do what we love. I think that's what helps keep us young and keeps people happy. So it's a good thing. But I want to ask Bill and Natalie, movies you're thankful for on this Thanksgiving week. Bill?
Okay, well, I'm gonna plug the newly renamed International Feature Film, which I'm a committee member, which I'm thankful for, which would be Life is Beautiful.
Life is Beautiful. With Roberto Benigni. Great choice.
Roberto
Boy,
Benigni.
you the feel-good Holocaust movie of the year. And, of course, Natalie, what about you?
I'm going to have to say a personal favorite is The Departed.
Oh,
Okay.
The Departed, Martin Scorsese. So there you have it, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for 4:30 Movie. And if you're a fan of the podcast, you may want to check out Electric Surge's other podcasts, like Inglorious Treksperts every Saturday, The Rebel and the Rogue, a Star Wars podcast every Tuesday, and Best Movies Never Made every Monday. If you enjoyed the podcast, please rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. And I think we can all agree that we're very thankful to Bill Ritter every week, who makes us sound so good and is that back there behind the board making these podcasts possible. Our producer, Natalie Muscali, who has been a fantastic champion of the show from day one and always keeps us honest. And, of course, Dean Devlin, who is our patron saint, who got behind these podcasts early and just saw something magical in them and has really really gotten behind them, and we're so grateful to him for his support.
Absolutely. And we're thankful for you listening right now.
Yes, we are. You too, Boots.
So thank you all for joining us, and we wish you a very, very, very happy Thanksgiving wherever you're celebrating, whatever planes, trains, and automobiles you're taking, whatever movies you're watching, and we'll see you next week with an all-new theme week on the 4:30 Movie. Eyewitness News starts now, followed by a Thanksgiving special, The Wizard of Oz, followed by King Kong on Channel 9.
This episode is brought to you by Toshi Station. For all your power converter needs, ask for Fixer.
This show is produced by Dean Devlin and Mark A. Altman and is an Electric Surge Network production.